Rock and metal invasion. Rock and metal invasion. Rock and metal invasion. Rock and metal invasion.
Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing an update on the Vinnie Vincent CD release, Ride the Serpent, and confirmation from Vinnie that fan response has not been there. So I wasn't really planning on doing a follow-up to this, but it's been in the sort of news quite a bit recently, the music news quite a bit, and there's kind of been some things that I think maybe need clarifying, but also some additional information has sort of come about. So I thought I've got to do it. I'm called Rock and Metal Invasion. The invasion comes from Vinnie Vincent Invasion. I'm a big Vinnie Vincent fan, but I'm following this quite a bit, and I sort of thought, there's quite a bit actually that I still would like to talk about. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, first of all, I want to talk about the fact that Vinnie has confirmed that there has not been a great fan response to this CD release, and I'll read out the statement from his Facebook page. I'll talk about some comments that he has edited and also deleted from his Facebook page. I'll just clarify when the recording of this song and the songs that are about to be released actually happened, because I think sometimes there's been some confusion about that. We'll talk about who the drummer is. So a lot of people have been talking about Robert Fleischman, Vinnie Vincent, of course, on guitars, but who's the drummer? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit. He's been making some very interesting comments on his Facebook page, and a couple of them are about former bandmates. So I'll tell you what he said about Mark Slaughter and Bobby Rock. I'll also give you my sort of, I guess, feelings about maybe seeing it from Vinnie Vincent's point of view, which I think perhaps a lot of people don't always do, and maybe why there are some elements to what he's doing that make sense. And also, I'm going to talk about why I might actually buy this CD. I'll talk about the fact that Vinnie has said there will be a vinyl release of this song, and also some other interesting comments that he has made on his Facebook page. Basically, I'm doing this so you don't have to. Okay, so his Facebook page, Vinnie Vincent Invasion Facebook page, has some interesting stuff on there, but it does take a lot of sort of sifting through to get to some of the interesting information. So I've gone and done that just for you. So I'll read out some of those comments that he has made, because he's very, well, I was going to say he's very fan friendly. Not always, but he certainly is responsive to certain people and certain fans, and when they say certain things, he will actually seem quite friendly and reply and respond. And he sometimes makes some quite interesting comments when he does that. So it's not even just his actual post, but the replies that he makes. There's some interesting stuff in there. So I've sort of gone through and had a look through some of that. And also some interesting information too about actually when he announced this, because it was a lot earlier than when it sort of broke, the news broke about this CD. But first of all, and this is what kind of prompted me to do this video, is a recent posting by Vinnie Vincent on his Facebook page where he basically has said that fan response has not been very good. And I'll read out the whole post here. It's quite long, but he does sometimes do some quite long posts, and this is one of them. So this is what he has said, and he's actually replying, I think, to someone on his Facebook page when he did this. So this is a long reply. There's no money in record labels. They're a dead end inside a dead end. And there's no money releasing a record like this with bootlegging thieves at my door. The real plot is much bigger. Unless I get compensated for my work, the album stays unheard. The praise from a fan base is pointless unless I'm compensated first. The last of the label days died in 1990. They hung a bit longer with grunge and rap, but the culture changed. The fun was gone. Rock was dead. By the early 90s, the doors to the record labels were a fortress. Unlike the 80s, the doors were closing literally. And even during the heyday of record labels signing bands, it was a revolving door of an advance going to the artist, being cheated out of your royalties, hiring lawyers to find your royalties, going to court for years and ending up without your royalties and left with nothing but legal bills. It's a scam within a scam. Touring is where artists made their money, and that's if you had a hit album. But unless you're the elite few like Paul McCartney and are selling out massive venues, there is no money in this. I am the manufacturer. I produce high-end product. I set the price accordingly. It's that simple. There's no argument here. There's no discussion. I've created an elite product for elite taste. So, for the smash and grab EBT card group of self-entitled complainers bitching about price, fuck off. The fatigue is now exhaustion. They are the side effect of what the internet produced. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Ultimately, this mentality will bring about the end of the artist. Eventually, the artist will get sick of being fucked over and handing over all their hard work to these deadbeats for nothing. At some point, unless artists form a coalition to stop this free goods giveaway and pandering to disrespectful, rude and stupid people, there will be nothing. It's heading there as we speak. AI is on the verge of completely replacing the artist. I give it 6 to 10 years. At this point, there's an overload of guitar players, guitar lessons, singer-songwriters, etc., and it's tiresome and dreary. It's the same shit on a daily basis in heavy rotation. People are beginning to tune out guitar players because they're a penny a dozen. They literally sound the same, play the same with essentially the same style. The result is producing a tune-out drone effect, at least in my opinion. The magic of Vinnie Vincent Invasion is escapism. Guitar-mageddon is escapism on steroids. So it comes down to this. If the fan support is not there, which it does not appear to be, this record will not be released. Am I fine with that? Absolutely, 100%. It will be the greatest album of all time, never to be heard, never to be released. If people want my music and they think they're punishing me by not buying it because of the price, laughing emoji, it matters not to me. They're the ones who will lose out. So there we go. That's from Vinnie himself, basically saying there that fan response has not been good. And I guess that also got me thinking, well, if fan response is not being good, and remember, he's only going to send out the 500 CDs internationally and 500 CDs domestically if they all sell. Otherwise, he's not going to sell any of them. One other thing that's interesting is he actually edited some of his comments. So, and you can even see this on Facebook. Now, it's not a big deal, but that comment that he originally made has been edited, and you can go through Facebook and you can see the edited comments. So, just to clarify the change, initially he said, eventually the artist will get sick of being fucked over and handing over all their hard work to these deadbeat fans for nothing. And then, interestingly enough, he decided to just reword that a little bit, and he changed it to, eventually the artist will get sick of being fucked over and handing over all their hard work to these deadbeats for nothing. Now, the reason I mention that or say that is because Vinnie did get quite a bit of heat, quite a bit of negative publicity when he went off on one particular fan in particular. And I think he's being very careful here to sort of not call his fans deadbeats. I'm not sure, but that's maybe why he edited that. But let's have a look at what he said and what the person had said to Vinnie. Vinnie, I love your music. I fear, though, that this price will deter people from truly enjoying your beautiful art in this horrendous economy, especially if it will be this way for each single. I was hoping your new music would be released as a whole for a fair industry standard retail price of 18.99 or so. While I don't assume to know your personal life and your needs that these prices would alleviate any burdens life may have thrown at you, it's a bit much for us devoted fans who are struggling to justify our electric bills and other utilities needed to feel normal and still have a monetary amount of cash to barely save after we put gas in the car once the bills are paid. I've rooted for you for decades, even when you had melted away from society to enjoy your private life. I waited for a hopeful return and will still be your fan. I really wanted to buy a whole CD for a fair price, though I cannot now. Much respect and Merry Christmas. And then Vinny replies, first of all, consider the analogy to caviar or fine art. Not everyone can afford it. Second, I resent your personal life's needs. Prices elevate my burdens. Insult. Who the fuck are you to assume such a theory because you can't afford or don't to pay or don't agree with my price? Oh, but you expect fair market price of 18.99? Fair market price? LOL. That was yesteryear. Welcome to the new agenda. Artists can and will set their own standards and rules for the purchase price of their art. That's if there are any or many artists of value left aside from the standard list. We are nearing 2030, inflation through the roof, homeless, etc. The horror list is endless. It is a Mad Max wasteland, the Wild West for artists now who have no protection from shoplifter fans who download their music for free. They are victims of massive rip-offs, reduced to beg and pander for likes and subscribes from self-entitled brats who want their work for free or for next to nothing. Unsigned artists are deer in the woods who never see a dime for the work. Signed artists are ripped off, cheated of the royalties, and usually end up in court. Labels own the artists and their works. I've been there, not interested. If artists had any fucking balls, they would unite and shut down all free goods giveaway and stop the suck-up pandering to fans and bring it all back to where it began. No free access, no free downloads, and start getting paid again for their work. Artists are unprotected. The internet killed the fire and desire and the creativity and the artist itself. No artist wants to give their music away for free to ungrateful, self-entitled deadbeats. If an artist is not protected by a label, there's no point of incentive to release their music. Third, my music is intensely desired. I'm a prime target for bootleggers. My price is my compensation for my talent and the music that fans want and wait for. And lastly, it's worth every fucking penny. It's the best designer drug on the market, an endless high of pure fire running through your veins. Vinnie Vincent. Okay, well, there we go. Look, there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm sure there's someone more intelligent than me can sort of unpack the psychology there and really analyze that a little bit more. But basically, you know, he got quite a bit of heat for that because the fan, his fan wasn't really being that disrespectful at all. Was actually just saying, I love what you do, but I just can't afford it. And then he's just basically said. He's basically saying, well, tough. If you can't afford it, then you miss out. Like I said, I think that post has actually been deleted. So maybe Vinny decided that perhaps his response was a little bit much. Now, you could read that and you could actually, and I would even go through some of that and say, I see his point. I understand what he's saying, but the person who he is replying to is a fan of him and wasn't being disrespectful or rude. And I think, the way Vinny has responded to that fan, probably wasn't the best. But I know he's super fired. Vinny's obviously super fired up about this. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on, that he's really trying to be protective of his music. And that's kind of, I guess, where the point that he's trying to make there. Anyway, so he's deleted that, and he's also been editing his comments a little bit as well. So it makes him seem maybe just a little bit more fan friendly than he had appeared to be for a while there. But now I just want to talk about, I guess, some things that just need to be clarified. I think uh, when this was announced, some people may have thought that Robert Fleischman got back together with Vinnie Vincent. They went in a studio and recorded these songs. Yes, they did, but that happened over 30 years ago. So these recordings are actually from the probably around the early 90s, at least Ride the Serpent, probably around the early 90s. And I've talked about this before. So I'm not going to sort of go over that anymore, but I did want to clarify that. The other thing I want to clarify is who is the drummer? Because I've heard people talking about Robert Fleischman. Okay, he's on vocals. Vinnie Vincent, he's doing the guitars. But who is Kerry Jordan? So this is the thing I'm a little bit confused about because when I do a Google for Kerry Jordan, I don't find anything. The only thing I find really is this information about this CD and that Kerry Jordan's playing drums on it. And it kind of got me thinking that, and I sort of alluded to this last time I talked about this Vinnie Vincent CD, that perhaps Kerry Jordan is actually a drum machine. I know that when these recordings were initially done, Andre LaBelle was the drummer. He's a real drummer, he's a real drummer. But then when Euphoria was put out, and these are the recordings that Andre played on, the recordings were replaced by a drum machine or programmed drums. And actually, in the credits on Euphoria, it says drummer V Meister. So it's just basically, I guess that's Vinnie Vincent, but not him actually playing the drums, programmed drums. But so yeah, I think it's quite possible that Kerry Jordan is not a real person, but hey, I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. Now, like I said, I've been going through his Facebook page and finding some information that I thought might be interesting so that you don't have to. And a couple of things I found that on his Facebook page that were kind of interesting were where he put down his opinions of Mark Slaughter and Bobby Rock. So Mark Slaughter, of course, was the vocalist on the second Vinnie Vincent Invasion album, All Systems Go, and Bobby Rock was the drummer on both of the first two Vinnie Vincent Invasion albums. So when talking about Mark Slaughter, Vinnie Vincent said this: "The worst voice I have ever heard. Intolerable. He should never have been in my world, my creation, or associated with me on any level. I'm working on undoing that mistake." So it's inferred there that perhaps All Systems Go is going to be re-recorded with a different vocalist. Bobby Rock. What does he say about Bobby? I was a bit surprised about this. I knew there was no love lost between Mark and Vinny, but didn't know there was any problems with Bobby. But this is what he says about Bobby. "His performance on the albums were lacking in groove. His feel was very stiff. That's a disqualifier for me. I initially auditioned Greg Bissonette, who was my first choice, but Image was on the table, so I went with the other guy. Mistake." Well, Bobby Rock definitely has a great image, but I don't know if there'd be any issues with his drumming. But anyway, it's all Vinny's opinion. So next thing I want to do is just basically let's try and look at this from Vinnie Vincent's point of view. Because I think even though sometimes the way he expresses his ideas aren't necessarily the best, he has a point. Let's be honest, the music industry for musicians is pretty tough. It's hard to make money. If you're streaming on Spotify, you're not getting a lot of money for that. So he's trying to basically avoid this or these recordings being put on the internet and then no one wanting to actually pay for it. So I get why he wants to mail them all out on the same day. That will lessen that. They're still going to end up on the internet, but he's got his money. The people who paid for the CD, the music, are going to get it. And then eventually, sure, other people who don't want to pay for it can hear it online. Because eventually it will probably get online. So that's why he's doing that. Why is he not going to send out any of the CDs if he doesn't reach his 500 for international, 500 for domestic? Well, I can kind of see that point as well. Say he only gets 100 international, maybe gets 100 domestic, then he's only making, I guess, enough. Well, he's still going to, what he's charging, still going to make good money, but still, he's only making money from 200 CDs, right, that he's sending out. He wants to make money from 1,000 CDs. He sends those 200 out. That, I guess, is his way of thinking. To his way of thinking, he's thinking, that's it. I'm not going to get any more money now because I've sent these CDs out. They're going to get out online, and then that will be it. I won't be able to sell that CD anymore. Um, and again, I can kind of see that point because, yeah, once you start sending it out and its physical product is available to people, it will eventually make its self online, even if it's not on Spotify. It will get on YouTube or somewhere, and it'll be a downloadable song. And yeah, again, then people might be less keen on buying it. At the same time, for me, it's not a case of whether I can stream it or not. I actually like to have physical product. So yeah, but of course I don't want to have to pay that much for it. But the thing is, it's actually kind of got me thinking because now that Vinny's confirmed that it looks as though fan response isn't going to meet the target that he's looking for, maybe I should buy the CD. Because what I didn't want to do is buy the CD and actually it gets sent to me and I've paid 200, well, actually it would be for me being international, 300 US dollars, which New Zealand is $530, so 530 New Zealand dollars, and actually then have the product. But if I'm not actually going to get it, I could pay for it. And that would kind of almost be kind of interesting. So, just for me, having a YouTube channel, I could then update you on, well, what's been happening? Have I got my refund? When did I get my refund? Did paying this money? So what happens when you actually buy this CD? When I put in my PayPal details and I send Vinny the money, does he send you an email, go, wow, you are such a great, massive fan. Thank you very much. What happens? Do you get some sort of confirmation from Vinny that the CD will be sent out? If anyone has actually gone through and purchased the CD, because I know that on Facebook there's people who are saying, I've sent my money, I'm ordering it. I might even try and track someone down if they're happy to talk about it, because I'm just interested to know, like, what happens? Do you get an invoice? Do you get a receipt or something? Some information, because gee, if you're paying that much money for a CD, I'm expecting some extra Vinnie Vincent love. But anyway, like I say, that would be my only reason now for actually buying it is because it's probably not going to be sent to me. It's probably not going to happen, and I'll just get my money back. But I'll still be able to go through the whole experience of buying it and seeing what happens from that. And just, but again, who wants the drama, right, of necessarily trying to get their money back? Also, like I said, it's $530. It's kind of like I can imagine Mrs. Rock and Metal Invasion sort of wondering where's she's going to notice $530. That's basically the problem. So yeah, so I don't think I'm going to do that. But if anyone else wants to, yeah, I'd love to know how you get on. So at the moment, for Vinnie Vincent's comments or on his Facebook page, you can't actually comment on some of his more recent posts. He's closed the comments down. Although actually, if you go back to some of his older ones, if you want to leave a comment, you can. So if you go back to some of his older postings, he hasn't closed the comments on some of those. So you could, in theory, post a comment on those, but some of his newer ones, a lot of his newer ones, you can't. I managed to post a comment before the comments got closed down, and not because I necessarily just wanted to, you know, give an opinion or post anything about my channel or anything like that. But he made an interesting statement that I just wanted clarification on. And so I'll show you what happened. Someone on his Facebook said, Merry Christmas, Vinny. That's cool. You finally got new tunes coming. Will you be releasing on vinyl or just CD and streaming? Enjoy your day. And then Vinny replied, Hi Chris, the bank vault of Vinnie Vincent Invasion is opening. No streaming, vinyl and CD, hard copies only. So I thought that was interesting. So I replied, and interestingly enough, when I replied, I was pleased to see I'm a top fan, which I'm not sure how you become a top fan. I haven't really posted on Vinnie Vincent Invasion's Facebook very much, but I'll take it. Anyway, and I said Vinnie Vincent Invasion to Vinnie, vinyl, question mark. When is the vinyl being released? Now, he didn't reply. So, and then someone has said, picture disc would be awesome. So he didn't reply, but I thought that's really weird. You've just announced this CD that's going to cost a lot of money, but now you're also talking about a vinyl. So, as we know, usually vinyl is more expensive than CD. So if there is a vinyl or a vinyl is going to get announced, um, who knows what the price for that will be. But anyway, I thought that was something a little bit unexpected. Maybe the vinyl is only going to happen if the CD sells. All right, lastly, I'm just going to talk about some of the other comments that Vinny has made on his Facebook page. Again, just so you don't have to. But just some interesting comments there that I found. Now, just before I do that, though, one thing I did find when I was going through his Facebook page is that he actually announced this on December the 2nd. Now, I didn't find out about it until Dan sent me a message on December, I think it was December the 23rd. And that's pretty much when it was in the news. The websites, YouTube channels were starting to talk about it around just before Christmas. But he actually announced it on his Facebook page early December. But it's a little bit deceptive. I'll show you the post that he made. In other words, you might have not really noticed it because all it says is private collection master recordings coming very soon. So nothing, I mean, obviously, Vinnie Vincent fans checking his Facebook page every day, believe it or not, I'm not one of them, would have seen that. And he basically talks right then on December the 2nd about how much the CD is going to cost, how it's going to go through PayPal. He gives all that information then. So it's quite interesting that this is information that's actually been out there for a while, but then it didn't really pick up steam until he officially announced it a couple of days before Christmas. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. So anyway, so what else has he been saying on his Facebook page? Well, I'm not gonna. As I said, he's actually quite fan friendly, but he has made some interesting comments, and I've read to you some of the comments that he made about former bandmates. Um, I thought this was a quite interesting comment. Again, he's just responding to someone who has talked about the price of the CD. And this time he's a lot more respectful when he replies to the person and even thanks them for being respectful. He says, thanks for being respectful. I know these are tough times. Money is tight for everyone. The country is suffering as a whole. I feel for everyone and I wish the price could be reachable for everyone. But there's no mechanism for that scenario to be implemented without structuring it this way. I separated the 1,000 threshold into 500 US and 500 international to reach a balance to compensate me for my work and be able to release the album at an affordable price. Affordable? Anyway, for that to happen, there would need to be 500 people in the US and 500 people worldwide, which accounts for South America, Scandinavia, Balkan countries, Italy, France, England, Russia, Asia, etc., who have the means to buy it as a limited edition collection piece. Releasing it as singles destroys the theft of bootlegging and protects my interests. With me compensated, I could then release the entire album for a more desired price. The unfortunate part is this: if the fans are resistant, financially unable, or mind controlled by outside groups of emotionally stunted, laughing face adult male imbeciles to not support this album, then the album will not be released, and anyone wanting for bootleg copies will be sad to learn it will not come to pass. I wish there could be another way, but there isn't. V. All right, so, again, he's talking to a fan about the price, but a lot more respectful in the way that he's explaining it. And, it's probably nothing really that much new on that post. Let's have a look at when maybe he's not quite so respectful. Here's a post that he's sent someone who has sort of complained about the money. Hey, clown face with shit for brains, you deadbeats are whining over 200 plus 100 shipping international, and you want your mind-controlled basement dweller Matrix morons to chip in and buy the entire album so you could download it to other freeloaders. Yeah, so yeah, that was when basically someone sort of had suggested that maybe we all chip in to get this CD. Yeah, he wasn't in favor of that one. Um, all right, here's another interesting comment where I think someone made a comment about that he'd learned something from Gene Simmons, because about the money. I know the value of my talent, and I know the desire for my music, and I know the thieves are waiting to steal it, bootleg it, and sell cheap to self-entitled deadbeats. And yes, I learned a lot from Gene. So there we go. And one more, and this is one that he has repeated quite a bit. I say this opinion based. Guitar-mageddon is one of the greatest rock albums of all time. I lived through Meet the Beatles, Zeppelin 2, Hendrix Are You Experienced, Jeff Beck Truth, Cream Wheel of Fire, Pink Floyd, etc. The only difference is these albums are generation tested and have the benefit of fermentation of time. But as for impact and perfection from the first song to last, Guitar-mageddon is a classic, the number one contender, Vinnie Vincent. All right, so yeah, he's basically comparing himself to the Beatles and Led Zeppelin. Yeah. All right. Anyway, look, I'll leave it at that. I think that was pretty much the only comments I sort of found that I sort of wanted to. I thought that might be interesting to share. Um, and again, I do that for you so you don't have to. Anyway, this may not be the last update on Vinnie Vincent and this particular situation and this CD single, Ride the Serpent, because hey, we're all going to be waiting, aren't we? I guess at some point to find out if it does actually get released and sent out. I think it's 1st of February, something like that. It's going to be sent out. So stay tuned to Rock and Metal Invasion, and I will keep you updated. All right, if you like this type of content, make sure you hit the thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.